Okay, make it sound like you're all wonderful, happy children. Good morning, grade 7s.
Good morning, Mr. Reader.
Good to see you. Welcome to the grade 7s watching at home. We're going to go through the second half of the assessment task of your English persuasive writing task. Last week we went through the task sheet and we went through my example, told you everything you needed to include. Today we'll quickly recap that and then we'll go into the marking criteria, because the marking criteria is going to be your cheat sheet on how to get a really good grade. So, you're welcome to look through your assessment tasks there. We'll go through it on the board as well. We'll quickly recap the assessment task, then go to the marking criteria. Here we go. As always, put your hand up at any stage. Let's do it. Okay, so you remember, you're writing a persuasive writing task. You've done heaps of planning for this already, which is awesome. You're going to take those ideas from your planning sheet and you're going to put them in a formal piece of writing. You want to have an introduction, body, and a conclusion. Remember, you want to have your introduction, you want to have your conclusion, and you want to have at least 3 body paragraphs there. Person in the front row.
When is this due?
It's got it written on the task sheet there. It is due Tuesday, week 8, 8 a.m. Okay, so this week's week 7, Tuesday, so it's due a week from today. A week from today. Up the back.
Why is it always due at 8 a.m.?
Because it's the longest I can give you and still be able to check in the morning to see you've done it.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Cool. Okay, so we're going to have introduction, body, and conclusion. We're not going to go into that in heaps of detail right now. You've got your example there. Did I hand it out last week? Yep, so you've got your example in your assessment folder. If you don't have an example, can you please make sure you get one at the end of this lesson or now? Example. Cool. Yeah, you've got one there. Sure, you've got one there too. Yes. Did you pass that one back, Sue? That doesn't. There you go. Okay. Let's go through the marking criteria now. Thank you. So, on your sheet, you've got your marking criteria. This is exactly what I'm going to use to grade your assignment. And this is really cool because that's a cheat sheet for you and how to get a really good grade. Let's go through it now. So a quick recap of how my assessment criteria work. Let's start simple. Let's start with writing accuracy, okay? So, if you give me your assessment task and there isn't one mistake in the whole thing, you get perfect, 3 out of 3. So what that means is, for writing accuracy, you've got a total of 3 grades available, 3 marks available. If it's perfect, you get 3 out of 3 for writing accuracy. If you make obvious mistakes, as in if you don't even bother to proofread it on Microsoft Word, you'll get 1 out of 3. If you make some small, subtle mistakes, subtle means not obvious, if you make some subtle mistakes, you'll get 2 out of 3 grades. Okay? Any questions? Cool, alright. Next up, writing quality. So, this includes your vocabulary. What sort of words do you use? Do you use words that you learnt in grade 2, or are you using some very fancy, sophisticated words? Sentence structure. Now we're going to look at this a bit more closely a bit later. The sentence structure is all about full stops, how many ideas you put into your sentences, use of commas, etc. That's going to be a big focus for us this assessment task, because there's room for improvement there going from last assessment task. Cool, so that's writing quality. Now, remember, it's out of 12 marks. So if you do a brilliant job, you will get 12 out of 12. But, like I told you a little while ago, on my assessment tasks, I leave room for better than 100%. I've already told you that some people by the end of this year really should be trying to get more than 100% on your assessment tasks. If you got a B+, an A-, or an A on your last persuasive writing, really within a term or two, you are very, very able to be pushing into more than 100% on some of these categories. And if you do a brilliant job, I want to be able to show you how well you've done. So that's why we've got more than 100% available. Any questions there? All right, let's go, yeah?
When you say like obvious mistakes,
Yep.
would it be like if we did then instead of there?
Then instead of there, yeah, that would work. Cool. Sweet. Okay. Introduction. So, remember you've got to have introduction, body paragraphs, and then conclusion. For your introduction, this is what I want you to do. So, when it comes time for you to be writing your persuasive piece, what you do is you look at this task sheet and say, okay, Mr. Grieger can give me up to 4 marks for my introduction. He's telling me that a good introduction will have these things in it. I better make sure I do that. So, your introduction should catch the reader's attention. So if you read through your introduction and you go, that's pretty dull, I'm not even interested, you know that you aren't going to get a great grade on your introduction. So, first thing you should do is catch the reader's attention. It should introduce your logical sequence. On your planning sheet, that's what you've got in box number 1. So your introduction needs to introduce your logical sequence. So again, if you're reading through it and you haven't done that, know that I'm not going to give you a good grade for that. Introduces paragraph topics, brackets, reasons, if necessary. So remember your paragraph topics, your reasons. Your introduction can introduce those. Now this is a bit of a tricky one because I've said if necessary, so you don't necessarily have to. You can talk to me about that if you think that's going to apply to you. Yes?
So the place where it says if necessary.
Yep.
So if we include it, would we get extra marks?
Maybe, maybe not. So the reason it's if necessary is because sometimes you can put heaps into your introduction and it can feel a little bit tacky or feel like it doesn't flow very well to put in those reasons. So if it's obvious to you one way or the other, do whichever way you want to go. If you're not sure, you're welcome to have a chat to me about it. Cool. All right. Finally, in your introduction, don't give any evidence. So you know how we did lots of research and you've got quotes from experts backing up your ideas and your reasons? You do not put those in your introduction. So I don't want you in your introduction to say something like, 9 out of 10 dentists recommend Colgate Extra White or something. You don't put that in your introduction. Questions? All right. Evidence use. And again, this is going to be awesome for you and how to get good grades. Yeah?
Are you allowed to use the evidence in your paragraphs?
Yes, absolutely. And we're about to get to that now. Great question. Okay, evidence use. So I'm going to mark you on your use of evidence. So you know how I've told you that I want you to be Googling and finding quotes from experts? I'm grading you on how much evidence and the type of evidence you put into your persuasive writing. So, evidence use. To get 4 marks out of 4. So you can 100% for evidence use is 4 marks. To get 4 marks out of 4, you need to have most points supported by evidence. So if you say something like, dogs are good guard dogs, but you don't give me any evidence there, you can't be getting these high marks. To get those marks, you want to say something like, dogs are good guard dogs. For example, Dr. John Ferroni from the University of Pennsylvania says, dogs are good guard dogs because they have sharp pointy teeth and can bite robbers on the nose or something. So you want to, every big point you make, you want to have evidence to it. So, to get 4 marks out of 4 marks, most big points are supported by evidence. Now that doesn't mean that if you miss 1 or 2 points that you're not going to get that. But let's just go down the scale. To get 3 out of 4 marks, half to 3/4 of main points are supported by evidence. So if half of your points are supported by evidence, you can expect to get 3 out of 4 marks. So So you can see how this is a really cool cheat sheet for you to get really, really good grades. So if you're thinking, okay, I'm going to smash this one, I'm going to go for an A, an A+, I'm telling you exactly what you need to do here. I'll just finish this one, then I'll come to your questions. All right, for 2 out of 4 marks, less than half of the main ideas are supported by evidence. So if you're just chucking your own ideas out there without giving me any quotes or statistics or evidence or proof, that's where it's going to go. Because that just turns into your opinion. And your opinion isn't as strong as an expert's opinion. So to get some good grades, you make sure you get evidence from the experts and put them in. Now, to get 5 out of 4 marks, so to get 120% in this area, every big idea is supported by evidence. So if after every point you make, you give me a quote or an evidence, piece of evidence or a reference, you will get 5 out of 4 marks. Questions?
Could we use, like, instead of doing evidence, could you use, like, specificity and write things about that?
Yes, but that will give you grades in the emotion category,
Okay.
not in the evidence category.
So what should we do if we can't find someone to write down? Do we just leave it then?
Cool. So, if you can't find a good quote, a good piece of evidence, you can also use kind of personal stories. Remember that example I gave you about dogs being caring? And my example was my own personal story about my dog being kind to me when I was sick. That counts as evidence too. So, quotes from experts, statistics, personal real life stories are good as well. If you can't find any of those things, that it can be okay. It just means you might get 4 marks instead. That's probably, I guess, why I've got the 4 marks as only 4 marks is most points, because sometimes it can be tricky to find marks and everything. Cool. Yes?
With the every big idea supported by evidence, do we have to have a PhD person for every single thing?
No, you don't. My dad owns and runs a tyre and mechanic shop. He quit school when he was in grade 10, but if I was writing an essay about tyres, wouldn't that be exciting? I could get my dad's opinion, and even though he hasn't been to school for 30 years, he is still an expert on tyres. So no, they don't have to do a PhD. But if I was writing that, I would say, Mr. Andrew Grieger, shameless plug, Mr. Andrew Grieger, owner of Malley Tyres for 20 years or something, and you'd show his credibility through that way. Does that make sense? Cool. Yes?
2 questions. With the every big idea, what does it like mean? Does it mean like every single dog counting for every single idea? Like you have persons every single one?
So, in your persuasive writing piece, every paragraph is going to have one big idea to it. Yep, so every reason will be 1 paragraph, so 1 big idea per that. A good rule of thumb would be simply 1 piece of evidence supporting that idea or that reason in every paragraph. Does that make sense? Yep. Question 2.
And also, if you can't find the name of the person who wrote the article, can you write like the website? Like
Yes. If you can't find the name of the person writing the article, use the website. Generally speaking, it's better to have the name of the person, but website is fine as well.
Like I have one from NASA, but I don't have the name.
That's cool. That's fine. And NASA, because they're such a credible authority, that's fine. Cool. Yep.
Are we allowed to like go to our parents? Because I'm doing like school uniform.
Really?
Are we allowed to like go to our parents?
Absolutely. And you might say Mr. or Mrs. X with 3 children at school, 3 children at school for the last 5 years. This is their opinion because they are experts in that. So that would be completely fine. Cool. Other questions? Awesome. Okay. That's evidence use. Here we've got evidence quality. Hands up if I know another teacher who teaches grade 6, whose name is also the name of a famous toothpaste brand, teaches about this a little bit, about credible websites versus non-credible websites. Hands up if you remember anything about that. Credible websites or credible sources. Kind of. All right, fair enough. Hands up if you've ever created a website. Cool. One of us, couple of us. Sweet. Hands up if you've ever been on Wikipedia. Cool. Now Wikipedia is awesome. I use it quite often. What is the potential problem with Wikipedia? Up the back.
It's public and it can be changed.
Brilliant. So it's changed. So it's a wiki. So anybody can log on and change it. So I could literally go to Wikipedia right now and say, the president of the universe is Mr. Sam Grieger. He is the best president the universe has ever had, and everyone should give him $50. And I could hit save on that, and it would literally be saved there. Not for long, because sooner or later someone would see that and go, this guy's an idiot, I'll erase that. But anybody can edit Wikipedia. Thus, we don't always trust it. So Wikipedia, I've made a website before, so anybody can make a website. You can just make a website. I could make a website on global warming right now if I wanted, and say something like, or flat earth would be a better one. I could make a website and say, sammysflatearththeory.com. I could be like, yeah, and I could write whatever I wanted there. And then someone on the other side of the world would do some research and they would find my website and they'd be like, Sam Grieger from Australia says this, and they could quote that in their persuasive writing piece. That doesn't mean that it's a very trustworthy or a very credible website or piece of information. But if you go to NASA, as you've done, they are very trustworthy, they are very credible. That is what this category is all about. So evidence quality, again, out of 4 potential marks. If the websites you are getting information from are NASA, CSIRO, Time Magazine, government websites, etc. Thanks, back there, cool. If you are going for a really, like psychology.com, Australian Doctors Association or something, if you're getting really trustworthy websites, you are going to get 4 or 5 marks here. If your websites are stuff like Wikipedia, bazsfacts.com, you're going to be getting more like 2 out of 4 marks there. So what that means is, when you are Googling, look for trustworthy websites. Now, we know that, how we find trustworthy websites are, generally speaking, look who's writing it. If it's someone who's been to university with a PhD or something, you can trust that. If it's a university website, you can trust that. If it's an Australian government website, you can trust that. If I was doing a persuasive writing piece on global warming, and I went to oilcompany.com, and they said, global warming isn't real, would I trust that? No, I wouldn't. If I was doing a persuasive writing piece on animal cruelty, and I went to KFC's website, and they said, animals don't really have feelings, therefore, would I trust that? No. If I went to the CSIRO, which is Australia's scientific organisation, and they said, research suggests this, I'd be more likely to trust that. If I logged on to Harvard University's website, etc., thank you, I'll trust that. So, we'll look at this in more detail, what makes a credible website compared to a non-credible website. Just remember, you want to go from trusted sources here. Yes?
Do we need a bibliography at the end?
Yes, please. So let's just repeat that. So, you want to keep a record of your bibliography, all your websites that you use. Now, if you visit a website just to read and you don't use any information from it, you don't need to copy and paste that into your bibliography. But if you use that information, yes, please do put that information in your bibliography. Up the back.
What if you already wrote
If you've already written stuff and you haven't kept a bibliography so far? No?
I don't feel like
Okay, no worries. Up the back.
Oh, National Geographic count as one?
Absolutely, brilliant.
Oh.
Yes?
So, are you gonna visit the website which we have, like, in the bibliography?
Definitely not going to visit every website of every student that they list, but I might visit a few. Or I might not. See how we go. So if I recognise it straight away, I will visit. If it's going to change your grades and I don't know the website, then I will visit. Yeah. Yes?
So with the, what was I going to say? Never mind.
Okay, cool. Yes?
I've already like written down all my like supporting evidence and etc. But not the websites.
Okay, so go back and try and find as many as you can.
Yeah.
I guess that's a day, like great work being proactive. Yeah, so go back, try and find the websites. Yeah, and write them down. Yes?
The person that was just spoke could go back into the search history and check the.
Great thinking. Did you hear that person who just spoke?
We're probably blind about
Yeah, you might be able to find it. It might be better than nothing. Yes?
What does it mean by examples are strong in there?
Examples what?
Examples are strong.
Sure. So, if I, one of you can go, is what I was saying there. Cool. If you get a piece of evidence, and you, let's say you're arguing about plastic bags or something, and your piece of evidence, you're saying plastic bags harm the environment, therefore we should get rid of them, and you find a website that says, we should get rid of plastic bags because they are all green and I hate the colour green. Okay, that's kind of relevant, but it's not that strong. It's not really helping you all that much. Does that make sense? If you get one who says we should get rid of them because they're harming the environment and soon all our fish will die, that's a bit stronger. Cool. All right, let's just start to wrap up. So, broadly speaking, you are being marked on. So your introduction, we went through that. And what I really want you to do here is I want you to look at this assessment criteria and say to yourself, okay, this is what Mr. Grieger is marking me on. Have I done this? Have I got an introduction which catches the reader's attention? Have I introduced my logical sequence? I want you to go down to the evidence use and I want you to say to yourself, okay, I know to get 4 out of 4 marks, I need to have most of my points supported by evidence. I can't just give my opinion anymore. I need to be stronger than that. So say to yourself, do I have references? Do I have expert opinions backing up my points? And if you haven't, you've got 2 choices. You can say, okay, well, I'll probably get a mark over here and maybe I'm okay with that. Or you can say, stuff it, I'm going to get myself 100% or 120% on this section, and you can use more evidence to add quality to it. Last thing, emotion. I'm still marking you on your use of specificity, so I want you to be showing me the best case scenarios and the worst case scenarios in each of your paragraphs. So if you're saying something like, we should get rid of plastic bags because they are harming the environment, I want you to get really specific and show me what that looks like. Give me a logical claim there, give me some evidence, absolutely, but then use your creative skill, add in that emotion and show me what that looks like to have such harm done to the environment. So you are still getting marked to a pretty high quality on your emotion, okay? So make sure you're putting in lots of that specific information there. Sorry, we won't have time, we're going to quickly wrap up. Okay, the whole assignment's out of 39 marks. Actually, are there any final questions? Yes?
Will it be marked on our bibliography?
There aren't grades for it in this assignment, no, but definitely do one. Yes?
Why is it 39 not 40?
Because all of these things add up to 39. And so every single mark in that assignment comes from somewhere. And if it was out of 40, I would have had to put 1 mark in there just for lols. Yeah. Yes?
So, like the extra marks mean more than 39?
Yeah, so if you get in this column, you can get 44 or something out of 39. But if you don't get there yet, that's okay, because that's, if you get that at the start of grade 7, that's amazing. Yes, front row. Cool. Yes, other front row.
Where do you put like evidence used?
In your body paragraphs. So like where do you write them in your assignment?
Yeah.
Yep.
Would we do that on like a main,
They'll pick up your grade 7s.
like a main.com?
Yes. Yeah. Cool. Yep.
If you like do the final row, like, and you get 44 out of 39, would that be like an A++?
Yes. In fact, 100% is A++. If you get an A++ in my class, I will happily give you chocolate. Hey, grade 7s, thanks for a great lesson. Have a great day.